Hello everybody and welcome to Planet Valenti Video. I'm Dan Valenti and today we shall be speaking with Berkshire County's, I guess we can say, new district attorney now, roughly 5 months into his term. I'm speaking, of course, of Tim Shugrue, and Tim, thanks for joining us today, first of all.
Well, thank you for coming in, Dan. I really appreciate it. Thanks for coming into our office. You and I had met out at all different places during the campaign last year when we were doing the stump, and it's nice to actually be in a nice, comfortable place today.
And it's nice to be able to walk into this office without having to look behind my shoulder and maybe getting roughed up. We had a lovely welcome here by Julia.
Yep.
And so let's get at it. I should like to begin by asking you just for a general impression of the first almost 5 months. We're taping this, by the way, on May the 23rd of 2023, and nearly 5 months in. Tim, what have you had as a general impression of the office?
Well, we've been really busy, as you can imagine. You know that in the fall we had a very difficult transition. It wasn't really a transition. I wasn't allowed in until January 4th. When we had come in, then we had to, January 4th was a swearing in.
So let me just stop you there. You were not allowed in the office?
No, I was not allowed in the office.
That's not a state decree or anything, right? That's a personal choice.
Yeah, I asked to come in early. 4 years ago, Paul Cacchiavello allowed her to come in early with her first assistant and to kind of get established, to give a running start in November and December, and then be ready to go. I wasn't able to have access to the office until January.
Did that hamper or hinder the fast start that you had talked about during the campaign? The fact that your predecessor did not allow you in?
It hampered some ways in trying to run the office in this budget, but I can tell you right after the general election on November 9th, once I was generally elected, I was in touch with the detective unit here, which we used to call CPAC. That was the detective unit at the Berkshire County DA's office. I had gotten in contact with them and members of the Pittsfield Police Department, and we began to start some investigations. So we were authorized a wiretap in November. We got started on that side. I wanted to go after the guns and drugs as soon as I possibly could. So despite the reluctance from this office, I was able to get the cooperation from local law enforcement, Pittsfield, and the state police, and began that investigation. However, when I get into the office, I hadn't had any access to, it was very difficult for me to even transition and hire people, because I had to do it at the Martin & Martin office over on the Eagle building in order for me to do my interviews, because I couldn't do them here. So when I did re-interview most of the staff that was here, and I also interviewed a lot of new people, but I had to do it at another law office because I wasn't allowed in.
How long did it take you to sift through the existing staff and find out who you wanted to keep and who you wanted to let go, that sort of thing?
I think it took me I didn't get much information back from the Harrington office until end of October. I was able to get most of my staff hired by first part of December.
What percentage did you retain from her staff? And
I would say, if you talk, general staff, probably about 80% of the general staff, such as secretaries and people that do, a lot of the work. There was a lot of open spots, so I should say there were a lot of holes that hadn't been filled. So I had to fill a lot of holes. I did replace a lot of lawyers, and I did replace a lot of victim witness people. I revamped the entire victim witness program. I had a director who had been working in here, but someone that I knew had worked here when I was here, even 30 years ago. And I promoted her to director, who, by the way, ended up getting a statewide award after we had promoted her, which was very nice. So we did change a lot of that, but as far as the general staff, a lot of these people worked here through different administrations. We kept them. And I think that they've already noticed a changing culture that we had in here. This is a very optimistic, upbeat office, and I think that you would walk around this office, you see the smiles and the happiness on everybody's faces. They love coming into work, and we have a good team that's developing here.
Give us a sense of how large and comprehensive this office is. As we said in our beginning, this is the county's top law enforcement office. How many lawyers do you have? How many people do you employ?
We have 24 lawyers. We're in the process of hiring 2 more, so we should end up with approximately 26, which includes 4 of our appellate lawyers. We have district court lawyers because we carry three different district courts, plus we have juvenile courts, and then we carry the Superior Court. We have 11 Superior Court lawyers, and we have, I think it's 11 or 12 district court lawyers, and then 4 appellate lawyers is the whole gamut of that. Then we have, with that, we probably have about 11 victim witness advocates, and then the entire staff itself is in excess of 60 individuals, plus we have 14 people in the Detective Bureau upstairs on the 3rd floor. So we have another, so 60 plus another 14, so about 74 employees.
I remember during the campaign, we talked about training and the fact that your predecessor did not do much in the way of new staff and kind of directing them and guiding them. You said you were going to change that. Has that begun?
Oh, that began day one.
Really?
Because,
How do you do that?
Well, first off, I brought in Kelly Kemp from Springfield, who used to be an assistant district attorney here. And I think you may have known her. She was a professor at BCC for a while. I think when you were
Okay.
teaching up there.
Yes.
When you were a professor
yes.
up there. So she
Yeah.
taught constitutional law and whatnot. I think around the same time you may have been up there. So she was teaching at BCC for a while. She went back to Springfield and the Hampden County DA's office. She was doing their trainings and their diversion programs. So I was able to lure her back. She's from North Adams. And so she was really one of my first hires. I really wanted to get someone to come in here and train the young district court lawyers, and I want someone to control and run the district court, because the district court to me is a really very important court. It's the people's court.
Can you explain the difference
Yeah,
for our
that's
viewers?
yeah, that's
Superior Court, District Court.
It is, and a lot of people don't understand the dynamics of the court system in Massachusetts. So we have a district court which handles minor felonies and misdemeanors. So a misdemeanor such as an OUI can be OUIs can also be felonies if it's a third offense. But we also handle, smaller domestic violence cases, smaller drug cases, some gun cases. They still handle stuff, but it's mostly misdemeanors and minor offenses. Those are people we usually see that not normally are in trouble, but end up somehow in the criminal justice system. Those are the type of individuals we try to work with to make sure that they don't come back to the system. We work with them on diversion programs and try to get them through that. At the same time, we have to prosecute the OUIs out of there. So there's the district court. The Superior Court handles the major felonies. That's the murders, that's the rapes, that's the serious trafficking of drug cases, the serious gun cases when we have multiple weapons or high-capacity firearms.
Who decides the jurisdiction? Like, where should it go?
Well, first off, the statute is all charges have different types of penalties. So if you have only a House of Correction penalty on the charge, that means it's a misdemeanor, which means it stays in district court. If it has state prison sentence, that means it's a felony. So once it's a felony, then we make a determination within our office. Some cases are there's only state prison sentences. So those have to go to Superior Court. So in order to get to Superior Court, we have to go through a grand jury process, which I can explain in 1 minute. But generally, most cases, we make a determination. Once we see the cases in district court, everything comes in initially in district court, and then I will look at the charges and see whether or not we should indict those cases, and then bring them to the Superior Court based upon the severity of what we see.
Do all Superior Court cases go before a grand jury?
Yes. There is another process to do it, which is called a bind over hearing. You can bind it over, but it just means it's bind over to the grand jury. It still has to go through the grand jury.
And what's the function of a grand jury? And I hope you don't mind me
No,
asking
this is
these
great
basic
stuff.
questions
This is
because-
great stuff. One thing I learned during the campaign, Dan, was that nobody understands what a district attorney does.
Well,
And so, I want to be able to explain all that, and people, if they understood what we're doing, they would understand the dynamics. And that's why I'm out speaking in the public all the time, to make sure people understand.
Well, I will say that's a fair comment compared to your predecessor, the fact that you are out there
We are out there all the time.
mingling and showing up, and I guess it fits in with your pledge of education, right?
Yes. And not just that, it's also, I said I committed to the public. I mean, it was Shugrue for you, we're here for you, so I'm out in the public.
So
I go to the events.
the grand jury.
The grand jury, so let's go back. The grand juries, what we do is we pick 23 jurors. And we go through a process, and we go before the Superior Court. We pick those 23 jurors who sit for a period of 3 months. In that 3-month period, they get the cases that we have made a determination, either that we have to indict, or that, such as a murder, or that we've decided that we want to indict. So what we do at that point in time, we put together what's called probable cause reports. We have to show whether or not probably somebody did that, more likely than not proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
And is there a defense?
No.
Okay, so this is just a prosecutorial
Function.
function.
Yes, in order to get the case to the next level. that it's sort of a review to make sure, that's what a grand jury does, to make sure that there's enough evidence to have probable cause to go forward.
And-
So know that enough evidence just to charge, not to convict, just to charge.
Okay, and 23, it's an interesting number, it's an odd number, so you
Well,
would
there's a
you
reason
have
for that.
finding. Why is that?
Because you have to get a majority, simple majority. So when you have 23, 12, 11. So-
Okay, is
so-
there any magic to 2-3 as opposed to 17, or?
No, because sometimes we may only have 17 grand juries, so you don't have to have all 23.
so
It has
you
to be a majority. There has to be,
Is there a minimum number?
well, we gotta have 12, because 12's you gotta have the majority. So of the 23 jurors chosen, the majority have to do it, so that would be 12.
Okay, so a 7 to 5 would do it. What would a 6 to 6 do?
We shouldn't have a 6 to 6 because we usually have an odd number no
Odd
matter
number.
what, yeah, so that we can get. But in most times, usually by the time we've looked at the case, a clerk in the district court has looked at the case and made a determination that's probable cause. We have looked at the case, and so if you know what you're doing, you're looking at, you know that there's enough to charge. We present that case, and what was happening in the past, they were presenting just an inordinate amount of information. We present the elements of the crime just to show there's enough to charge the case. Grand jury then, they vote on it. We're not part of the voting process. We remove ourselves from the room. We just present, we instruct the jurors on what the law is. We then have the officers testify. We then remove ourselves. They then vote on whether they want to indict. They decided they want to indict. It's called a bill, a true bill. They give us a true bill back signed, which is an indictment. So a true bill then becomes an indictment. The indictment goes before a judge. The judge then issues the complaint, the indictment, and then they set it up for an arraignment. So that's sort of how a case gets to the Superior Court.
Okay, another general question, and we will get into some specifics, but I don't, you're probably too young to remember, but there used to be a TV show called The Defenders. Do you remember that, David? E.G. Marshall? Yeah, the Defenders, and it began with a voiceover that said, democracy is a very bad form of government, but all the others are so much worse. And the shows actually were quite ahead of their time with the issues they took up, but the whole idea of the justice system, does it really work, do you think, for the
I think
whole?
for the most part it does. I think we've seen a lot of negativity in the last few years about the justice system. But I think if it's in the hands of the right people and competent people, if you present the evidence the right way, I think that the justice system can work. Does it work every single time? No, I hate to say it, but it's the system, and I agree with that logic. It is the best system in the world. It may not be a perfect system, it's imperfect, but our system is based upon if there's going to be a mistake, it should be made in the favor of the defendant. So that's the whole idea. That's why it's proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Nowhere else in the world does it have that standard.
So as a prosecutor, that is your mindset?
I have to prove a case beyond a reasonable doubt. I want to make sure I don't want to present a case that unless I'm to a moral certainty I know a person is.
Do you ever have to
guilty.
present a case that you don't believe in?
I will not present a case that I don't think there's probable cause or that someone has committed that crime. I will not do that. I will never do that, and that's always been my. We've been sworn to do justice. This is not about winning and losing. It's not about getting convictions. It's about presenting cases and doing just. And what we want to do is present the best product we possibly can in the courtroom to present our cases and to prove our cases beyond a reasonable doubt.
What about the political side of the office? Naturally, you want to rack up victories for the people, or no? I don't know, but
Well, our job is to do justice. It's not about racking up victories. So I want to make that clear. Our job is to do justice, and sometimes justice it has to play itself out. And so I think the role as being a district attorney is you're going to make sure. I was sworn in 1986 with Matthew Ryan in Springfield, and he was the DA at that time. And when I was sworn in, I was told one thing, is that you're sworn to do justice. If you find out a person is in charge and they're innocent, you do justice, and you make sure that that person is let go. If you find out that this person has, you have probable cause to believe that this person has committed that crime, and you can prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt, and that's the standard. We have to look at it all the time. If I can prove that case beyond a reasonable doubt, I'm going to go forward. If I can't prove that case beyond a reasonable doubt, I will have second thoughts about presenting that, because this system is based upon justice, which isn't. It still is. You have to be conscious of everybody's rights, and we have this strict, strong standard that the legislators established, and we adhere to that to the letter of the law.
And that's an ideal, of course, ideal
Yes.
justice. It's never,
We should always shoot for the ideal.
we should, yeah, we should. But as you say, there has been some, I think a lot of negativity built
Right.
up. And I would think that that is something that would, maybe not hamper you, but something you have to be aware of.
Yeah, we're aware of it. What we're trying to do is really sort of change the
Yeah,
culture.
how do you get at that?
Yeah, well, we're trying to change the culture. I mean, and some of the reason we change the culture is we have these conversations like I'm having with you, you know. To change the culture of this world is to understand what we're trying to do is we're trying to be just and we're trying to be fair to people. And I think it starts with that. If every individual starts that way and does their job that way, we change the world one day at a time and one person at a time. And I think that we can, especially in Berkshire County, because I know that by doing the kids' place, just how hard it is to get something off the ground. But if you work at it, this community will support it. And the way I look at things, if we attack things, we take things with optimism and you know, trying to get a vision of what we want to do, strive for the best, and make this county the best, we can do that. But it starts with that want to do that. And I don't believe in the negativity. I believe in optimism. And you know, instead of seeing a glass half empty, I see it half full, and that's what we're going to keep going. Yeah, I know.
Right.
Well, these always should be full, by the way.
Yeah, how do you convey that to an entire staff? I mean, you're trying to change a culture. That's like trying to, you know, I remember once I interviewed the captain of I think it was the Queen Mary. Was that the big?
That was the big cruise
Yeah.
ship, yeah.
And he said that to turn an ocean liner, if they're going in a direction, they want to take a left or a right, you have to start 7 miles out.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that trying to change a culture is something like that.
It is, but you start. You know, it starts with how you act. I'm here before you else in the morning. I'm here at 7:30. I'm here at 7:30 at night. So they see I'm not asking any more from them than what I'm giving, and that starts with that. You make sure you're doing that, and people see the work ethic that I have and what I'm trying to do, and they see. And on top of that, I'm going out at nights. I'm going out on weekends. They see the work ethic that I have. On top of that, I treat everybody right within this office. We saw a big change, and I can tell you, I see a relief in my staff. You will walk around here, there are smiles everywhere. The first couple weeks, everybody was afraid. We had to establish a dress code. People didn't like that at first. Now they all enjoy it, and they understand it. But it's just professionalism that we're trying to show within the office. It took a little bit of just getting people to understand what we're trying to do, which is optimism.
I agree, just looking the parts
Yes.
conveys an impression.
Yes, and this, you know, you're the way you want to commit to the community, the way you want to show that your commitment to the community starts with yourself, and I want my staff to do that. And so what we did on top of that was, when it's a long weekend, I will make sure that the skeleton staff, I will send people home. I'll stay if I have to, but I try to treat people, they're working so hard. I got people coming here Saturdays and Sundays. I will give them time off afterwards to make up for that. When I see what people are doing, you reward them and you don't punish them. If somebody makes a mistake, what we do is we learn from our mistakes and we go on. We don't criticize people. You know, we tell them, don't do it again. If you make a mistake, let's
Well, how do you
correct it.
handle that when someone, as inevitably happens,
Oh, yeah,
we're all
yeah,
human, they
absolutely.
screw up.
Yeah.
How do you deal
We
with
bring them
that?
down and we discuss what happened and why it happened. Let's make sure it's not going to happen again. Let's look at it. Why did this happen? How did it happen? And let's make sure that those steps aren't taken the next time.
Learn from the
Learn
failure.
from it. You learn from it. We all make mistakes, especially in the legal field, because we're all lawyers. We're exposed up there in front of the court all the time. We have to think on our feet all the time. And you know it, as a journalist, you're thinking on your feet all
Absolutely.
the time. And so sometimes, you know, mistakes are made. Everybody makes mistakes. We're human. But the key is to say we're not going to just, because you made a mistake doesn't throw you out. We're going to make sure that you don't make that mistake again, and we're going to help you learn from this. And really, a lot of what we had to do was starting with that training. When I came in, and this office was a mess. You know, it took me a day to clean up just to even get in.
Did you fumigate, by the way?
Oh my
before
God,
you took
we
over?
did everything we possibly could. And then, so that's it. And then, just so you know, the day I got sworn in, we started jury trials in the jury of 6. And so then, that following Monday, we started our first Superior Court trial. And we have been nonstop. I think we've tried 15 Superior Court trials since January 4th. Now, you know, most DAs, when they come in, they don't start for months. because they have to get up and running, get their
Well,
staff
these
going.
cases that have been brought to a conclusion,
We've had at least 15 trials. We've had so many pleas.
What's-
As-
well, that's a good point, because that was one of the specifics I wanted to ask
Yeah.
you. We're about 5 months in now, and one of the criticisms of this office has been too many pleas. How do you respond to that?
Well, you have to remember the cases that I inherited were cases that we didn't develop. So some cases I look at them and I make a determination of some recommendations are already made and I'm bound by them. So those are out of my hands. Once the prosecutor's made a recommendation, I can't change that. Others that we've seen, that we've developed, we realize that they were in charge, but the triability of the cases aren't that strong. So once I take a look at the triability of the cases, as you asked me earlier, well, how do you look at things? I look at them. If I'm not able to prove that case, I'll give you an example. We had a case a couple of weeks ago. There was an individual that was charged in a shooting case, but the person that was the victim, when he was shot, refused to cooperate. The witness that he was with, we think was the target of the shooting at the house, wouldn't cooperate with us. We had no witnesses on that case, but the guy had a gun. I could prove that he had a gun in his possession at some point in time by a videotape. We prosecuted that case. We asked for 2.5 years, and the judge only gave him 18 months because the triability of the case wasn't that strong. Not one person would come forward and say who shot who.
How frustrating is
Very
that?
frustrating. But you know what, Dan? I got a conviction on that, and I put the guy in jail for 18 months anyway, which normally in the past mysteries, that case probably would have been dismissed. But I got that, and I still got something out of it. 18 months. I was very frustrated. My prosecutor was very frustrated. We're putting our heart and souls into it, but we had no witnesses. I had enough evidence to prove this person had the gun, which gave me the ability to get the conviction. But yeah, if I proved that he had been the shooter, I'd have been giving him 10 years in prison. I mean, more than that. You know, if we can do that. So you have to understand the dynamics of it. Some of these cases, the provability isn't there, and so we have to. And please make the system work. Sometimes I also looked at some people, they may have been overcharged. I look at them and I take, as I said in the beginning, when I ran, I'm going to look at each case individually. But look at those convictions that you're seeing. People are going to jail. So that's the big difference. And people didn't go to jail.
And let's go back to criminal justice 101. A plea is, define a plea for our
Sure.
viewers.
So what happens is when we are doing the case, there are negotiations that happens between defense and the prosecution. So you've got a case, prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. The defense side, and I did it for 29
Is
years.
that when you share information?
Yeah, we give what's called discovery process. So it takes about 6 months or so, and then the defense may even ask for discovery that, and then we have to go find it and get it. So we go back and forth sharing discovery information. Then at that point in time, once discovery is made, and we've weighed the cases, both sides, prosecution's weighed, defense is weighed, and we decide what our triability is. Can
And
you
when,
win?
and when is your inclination to a plea?
Well, we
When
don't.
does it come up to you?
We always assume they're going to trial, and we'll make a recommendation on what we think. We look at the guidelines in the Superior Court, even though we're not bound by the guidelines, we have guidelines based upon the sentences. And the reason we have that is so that we have equality and justice for the sentencing. So we go through, do our guidelines, and then we do what's called a prosecution memo in-house. With in-house, we'll look and see what type of, why we're going to have a recommendation from a particular case based upon the history of other cases, similar things, and by the person's past history, their record, potential to recommit a crime, whether they can be rehabilitated. We look at all those factors, and then a recommendation is made to the defense. They then say whether they accept it, or they reject it, or they may come back to us. Okay, I've got this guy, for example, someone come to me, as I used to do in defense. I have this person, he's been in treatment for a year, he's been drug and alcohol free, I can show you all these tests. Then they try to convince me, okay, well, this guy, I can work with him. Someone that is trying to rehabilitate themselves. And then we can readjust what the recommendation would be. If everybody's set in their positions, we have trials. If we don't, if we get to a meeting of the minds, so to speak, and we've agreed this is what is fair and just, the defendant believes so, and the prosecution believes so, we do what's called an unagreed plea. If it turns out that we have a differences of opinion, but we still want to plead, we can do an unagreed plea rather versus an agreed upon plea.
In passing, you mentioned that you had been on the defense side of things for quite a while.
29 years.
That must be an advantage, I guess, because you know the thinking that's going on from the other side.
It's been both sides. I was a prosecutor for 9 years, and then I became a defense lawyer for 29 years.
So you're back.
So I'm back to prosecution. So I've got sort of come full circle. So when I was a defense lawyer, yes, it was very beneficial to me to know what the prosecution did. As a prosecutor, it's very beneficial to me to know what a defense is going to do. I know both sides of the fence. And, I've been there, and I haven't just been there. I've tried those cases. I've tried a lot of defense cases. I've tried a lot of prosecution cases.
There's one thing you said during the campaign, that you would be personally trying cases.
Yes.
Have you personally tried any cases?
No,
thus
because
far? Why is that?
Well, first off, I have.
Are you going back on a campaign promise?
No, you just saw. I just did the arraignment of Cody, which was the murder. That's my case, because that case started in October.
Which case is that?
That is the North Adams murder.
Okay.
Kelsey Cody, Falmouth versus Kelsey Cody.
And you're doing that one
I'm
yourself?
doing that one. No murder trials are done by themselves. We always have 2 lawyers assigned to every case.
Well, one is the lead.
One's the lead. I'm the lead on that case with First Assistant Mary Ann Shelley. And I'm also doing the Gallorenzo case with Joe Yolano. He's going to have the lead on that, and I'll work with him on that case, which is the death of that 2-year-old child in the river up in Clarksville.
Oh, yeah.
So those cases have taken an inordinate amount of my time already. But you remember now, I am building a staff. I couldn't fill all my positions. I've been doing that, and we had a budget that was a mess. I didn't have the funds. We have now paid off. I've been in Boston a lot I've been working really close with Paul Marks and Cindy Pignatelli about getting us more money. I'm hoping to get an increase in my budget for next year. I've also, I wasn't able to fill all my positions in the office because there wasn't enough money here. There was mismanagement of funds that we had to pay back.
Can I stop you there?
Yeah.
Did you notice or discover any financial irregularities?
No, I wouldn't say it's irregular. It was just there were bills that were owed. There was there were a lot of car storage fees that hadn't been paid, and I changed the policy on how long you hold cars and what you do with cars. We don't hold cars
Gotta pay
for
my bills.
Got to pay your bills. So but there was a lot of cars that were held from vehicular homicides and impounded cars that were held for a number of years, some of them 4 years, and I don't want cars held that long. So if they have to be held for a period of time, it can be up to a year, depending upon how long it takes to process them. But as soon as the cars are done processed, we want them released. So there were some bills that we had to take care of all that. We're working on, I have to get a new lease. This lease expired 4 years ago, so I have to get a lease in this building. I'm spending a lot of time doing that, spending a lot of time fixing the budget, getting those monies back, and still hiring personnel, because the only way I was able to pay these bills was not hire personnel for the first few months.
Are there still positions to fill?
There's just 2 more lawyers to fill left. That's it.
Okay, and then you're
Then,
full staff.
then I'll be, the first time in this office in 4 years, will have been fully 100% staffed.
Okay.
And we're also now trying to renegotiate our lease and potentially expand our facilities.
Okay, good building for you guys?
This is a great
7
building for
North
us.
Street.
Yeah, well, it has to be close proximity to the courthouse.
Yeah,
That is tremendously important to us.
which kind of limits your,
It limits our amount of buildings we have here, right? And we have a digital evidence lab in the state police, which would be very expensive to move. So it's, because it's very complicated.
how many state troopers are assigned to you?
14. Yeah, we would like to, 13, we should have 15. So we have 13 right now. So
Okay, and
and a couple of part-timers that I bring back on that are retired.
are they the enforcement arm of this office?
Yeah, they, like, for example, if we have a murder that's not in the city, then they will handle those kind of cases.
Okay.
They also handle, we have so many areas that we don't have law enforcement coverage because they're small towns. So, but yes, they run the task force, they run the drug task, when we do drug work out of that, it'll come out of the task force. I would consider they do a lot of the heavy duty stuff along in conjunction with North Adams Police and Pittsfield Police Departments, which are both tremendous police departments.
One of the things we also talked about before you won the election is that you were going to go hard after gun cases.
We are. That's like this, you don't know, right?
No,
You don't know why?
why?
Because we're not having them anymore. It's a big change. If you notice, the amount of gun violence has gone down dramatically. We have, since January 4th, I have not tolerated any gun use whatsoever. And we have been prosecuting those cases. And I haven't reduced down one gun case. I will not reduce down a gun case. If there's a reason I reduce it down, it's only because we don't have provability problems, or there's the elements don't meet the crime.
But the guns are still out there.
We're getting them. I mean, I think that big raid the first week that we had, and we picked up, I think, 15 guns and a lot of drugs in the first 2 weeks. That made a big dent.
A lot of that involves having feelers out into the
Absolutely.
community. Do you have snitches and spies and
Well, I mean,
things?
we
I
have.
mean, we see this on the detective
Well,
shows.
we don't call them snitches and spies. We call them confidential informants.
Jim Rockford had Angel.
He had Angel. I remember Rockford. I remember Angel.
Do you have your angels?
They're building building up the confidential informant base, I'm sure.
But
yeah,
we're
there's
not trying
always-
to compromise.
No. It's you're talking general scheme of criminal justice system.
Yeah.
In the criminal justice system, that police use informants, which have to have. They have to meet two prongs in order to be an informant. They have to have given information in the past and to prove their veracity. And number two, they have to have, which have led to convictions and arrests and seizure of drugs. They have to have basis of knowledge. They have to show that they've been there recently in that location and give detailed information. So those are the two prongs that before you can use an informant to say they've got inherent veracity, truthfulness to them. And number two, that they have had the basis of knowledge that they can prove that they've been at the scene where they say this legal activity happened. So yes, we use that all the time.
What do you think of shot spotter?
The
Does it
shot
work?
spotter, the police say it works. I'm not really sure yet. I think I'd rather just have people call us. If we wish we didn't have to worry or rely upon shot spotter. It'd be a lot easier. People just picked up the phone and dialed 911. We are changing the culture of that as well. We're letting people know if we need to impound your address and your phone number and where you are, we can do that. We're trying to get more people to understand that we are not going to dismiss these cases right after you charge them, so that people don't. Then they're afraid they're going to get retaliated
As
against.
has been the case.
Absolutely. So now we hold people, accountable. The whole word that comes out of this office, Dan, is probably the best way. And I think we talked about this last summer. Is the word is accountability.
Yeah.
You and I are accountable every day we get up. You've got a job to do. You're doing your job. Every day I've given accountability to my family and myself and to the community now by being in this position.
Well, especially now the entire county.
Yeah, and
Really,
so we're
and-
accountable.
And to some extent, a good chunk of this state.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I work in Boston all the time. We meet monthly with the other DAs. We all on the same page dealing with that. But I also expect accountability for people in the community. So if you're going to steal, I'm going to hold you accountable. So if you're going to do drugs, I'm going to hold you accountable. Doesn't mean I'm going to put you in jail. Accountability depends upon, I look at each case individually. If someone's an addict, I'm going to help you get clean. The best I possibly can. So we don't have, one of the worst things I saw, even the first month I was in here, is the amount of overdoses that we were seeing from deaths. And we need to reduce that. How do we reduce it? The only way I can think of doing it is getting people into treatment. How do we get into people treatment? If they're caught with drugs, we prosecute them. Don't have to give them a conviction, but we get them into treatment. That first raids that we did, I just talked about, those 15 people that we picked up, none of them were drug addicts. These were businessmen that we picked up, but they were in houses with drug addicts. Those drug addicts I put into drug court right off the bat, every one of them. So we took bad guys, put them in jail, held them on $100,000 bail each, and the other ones we put them into diversion programs because that's what people need. I want to stop the supply by stopping people using drugs. So if I get them clean, it stops the supply.
Yeah.
And I also want to go after the people that are, the people that are bringing the drugs in, and that's what we've done. So you want to come in here from New York City, and you're going to sell drugs here, you're not going back. I got a nice place for you to sit up on Cheshire Road. So,
Do you think that word, from what you said, it would appear that the word is filtering down now
I think it's filtering
to
down.
the criminal element that the easy street is over.
Easy streets over. I can tell you that first week I was overdoing the bail. So you talk about asking city you're going to be in the courtroom. I've been in the courtroom. Am I trying cases that weren't mine from before? No. But am I in the courtroom? I was in courtroom that first week. I was arguing bails on $100,000 bails, and one of them is $250,000 bails that we asked for. And you know what the defendants were saying to the probation department downstairs? Well, we've been here before. They just let you go. They said, not today. You don't. They said, there's a whole different ball of wax. So, and people are finding right out. You're going to come here, you're going to sell drugs. If the statute meets the requirements and you can be held, I am going to hold you. Because, these people from New York, they're not from our community, they have no ties here, they've got criminal records, then we're going to hold you.
Do you feel like you're swimming against the culture? I mean, I'm thinking of when Rachel Rollins, and I want to ask you about that case.
Yeah.
When she first came in, there were like 15 or so crimes that she basically said they're no longer crimes. One was shoplifting, one
Right.
was, are those crimes again?
Absolutely, they were always crimes. And I don't think we have the right nor should we be able to dismiss those cases
Just
when
by
those.
fiat.
Yeah,
it seemed
yeah.
like she
Well, the
did.
legislature has made these crimes. I'm not the legislator. I enforce what the laws that are put on the books. Those laws are on the books, and it's a shame that our merchants and our general public has to deal with people that are stealing on a repetitive basis. But we also, I've stepped it up a little bit. We now call what we charge what's called retail criminal theft, retail crime. So it's organized retail crime. So 3 more individuals, which is usually the case. There's a driver in the car outside. There's the person that's distracting someone in the store, and then there's a thief.
I'm thinking of that case at Ulta.
That's absolutely right.
Talk about that case.
Yeah, we knew that there was $5,000 coming out of there. That more than that, I think it was $37,000 was coming out of that store in a particular month. We had police. Pittsfield Police was all over it. Great, they did a great job. They were sitting on it, and boom, soon enough, we caught the 3 that were in there.
And this was an organized.
This is an organized group, and in that particular day, they stole $5,500 in cologne. Now you say, well, who wants stuff from Altus? Believe it or not, on the black market for drugs, cologne, especially men's cologne, goes for a high value. So
Why is that?
it's what the drug dealers want, I guess. But it sells for a high commodity. So you know, so as a result of that, we picked them up. Unfortunately, because it wasn't a clerk, it was a bail clerk that released them on bail before we could even ask for bail. They were released, and they obviously defaulted, and there's warrants out for them, and we were looking for them actively in Albany right now.
So those 3 are.
Yeah, they didn't show back up in court. You think they were going to show back up? I didn't think they would either. That's why you hold people on bail. They didn't show back
You
up.
think you'll find them?
Yeah, we're going to get them.
Yeah.
We're going to get them.
Yeah. What's the reaction of someone like that when they're caught?
No, they don't like it.
Do they say, I mean, you catch them red-handed, right, in this case?
Yeah.
Do they deny it?
Yeah, they didn't admit it. They didn't say anything. You know, they invoked their Fifth Amendment, and they didn't speak. Unfortunately, it was a bail clerk and not a regular clerk that established a $2,000 bail. They posted a $2,000 bail before Monday, before I could get to them, and they were gone. And they obviously they weren't going to show up because they know we're going to hold them in jail.
Is there a way that a district attorney could maybe change the way bail works and to say, don't make a decision on bail or no bail until you contact this
I made
office?
calls right after that and just said, listen, if you're going to bail clerks, please check with the local law enforcement, please check with us first to see what kind of bail we are looking for, what we want, what other information we have. So I have gotten a commitment from all the clerks now that they will check with us first before you go. Because we had one out in Connecticut, somebody in Great Barrington was released. We then, of course, they didn't show up. It was a drug and gun case. We went down to Connecticut, we picked them up, we got them, we brought them back.
Right, there's a sea change.
Yeah.
Compared to what was going on.
And we went back and got it. Yeah. So we just, most of these individuals, 50% of the individuals, we're talking in January, that we arrested on those multiple search warrants we did the first week I was in office, they all had pending cases with drugs and guns. Pending right now in the Berkshire Superior Court. So we revoked their bail in those cases and put a $100,000 cash bail on top of it. So, we're doing a lot of work. At the same time, too, there's a lot of people that want to make sure that understand that we are doing the right thing for people that find themselves in the system that aren't criminals, that end up, and we're doing that. We're also starting a whole new juvenile program with a new juvenile diversion program that got substance to it. So we got to have some substance to it. So when someone comes in there and they're going to be diverted, that we've got drug counseling, that we've got mental health counseling, whatever issues we have to do. And we've hired a director for that that's going to begin on June 5th. And we've hired a specialist in juvenile court for the
what
ADA.
New things will be done?
We'll have if we're going to divert somebody, we won't divert any guns.
And divert means basically you're not going to jail. We're going to seek some other.
Yeah, we're going to try to rehabilitate you the best we can as a child, and work with them before they become a hardened criminal.
What will this office be doing now that was not done before?
Well, before every case was diverted. First off, we don't divert every case. I won't divert a gun case, and I won't divert a crimes against people, Chapter 265, sexual assaults, rapes, any crimes against people. We will not divert those. Those will go through adjudication. Doesn't mean you still can't earn a dismissal by through a process of a year, getting yourself clean, showing that you're not going to do it again because they are juveniles. And the other thing we're doing, there's a real diversion program. The kids are just finding themselves in the system, and we get a lot of information from the officers that are in the schools. That those guys are great. The SROs, they do a great job. They give us information about the kids. Who needs some help? Who's got some problems? We try to work with those kids. Either mental health issues, it could be social skills, it could be drugs, it could be alcohol. We try to address those issues right off the bat and put some teeth to it so that we're following through and making sure they're doing them. Using probation. The last administration did not use probation department.
Your
You can see that.
predecessor defined anyone 25 or under is still developing, the brain was still developing. And basically, without saying this, she was saying that they're still children.
Well, there is some logic to murders if you're under 21, but basically what we're saying, I deal with every case individually, depends upon someone's maturity level when we're looking at them, and we take cases on a case-by-case basis. You can't put policy on people's lives. I've never, you and I talk
There's
about
a
this.
quote right there. I'm serious.
Yeah, I don't put policy on people's lives because you're different, I'm different. We have different DNA. So our situations are always different. Your background's different than my background. I'm going to look at that when I'm deciding what percentage you should have based upon or what activity took place that I have to then weigh and balance. Can you be rehabilitated? Was this just an aberration? Was this something that shouldn't have happened? Or is this someone who's a hardened criminal that we know no matter what I'm going to do, they're just going to snow me over and then try to do it again? So I look at that at case-by-case basis. I will not treat any case as a policy. I said that during the campaign. I'm doing it now. Every single case is looked at individually, and I try to get the best possible sentence I can for those cases. When I mean best sentence, sometimes it's incarceration, sometimes it's diversion. It's whatever we think is justice. It comes down to the word justice. And I want people to understand the passion that we have for this is because we're trying to do what's right for our community, which is to make us all safe, respect each other, and everybody have accountability to each other. I think if we start within this office and we can kind of promote that throughout the rest of the community, I'm promoting it with police officers, I'm doing a lot of training with police. So, we've done, you asked earlier, I said, have we done training? I've sent 12 ADAs on nationwide trainings already, so far this year.
Wow.
Yeah, and
That's 12 more than previous.
That's correct. And we run a 4-hour training every Thursday. Every single Thursday. Kelly Kemp from Springfield runs a 4-hour training. We did.
What do you cover? What do they cover?
Last week we did competency and then the criminal responsibility issues. Before that we did Rule 14, which is the discovery process. How do we handle that? And then the week before that we did Rule 17. This is third-party discovery. How do we get that in there? Whether it's evidentiary issues, we do a topic once a week to help the younger lawyers out. And what I've done is I've assigned every young district court lawyer a mentor from the Superior Court. So they have somebody that they can look up to. So not just do you have your supervisor as well, you have a mentor. Everybody has a mentor. And when it's a serious Superior Court case, I make sure 2 lawyers are on there. And on top of that, I put an appellate lawyer in there in case a legal question comes on up. So our lawyers are working like they're supposed to, which is in conjunction in a very cohesive unit. This office is very close. If I go at the end of the day, I'll see, like I said, people stand at 7:30 at night. I go at the end of the day, I'll see around the district court coordinator, Kelly Kemp, 8 lawyers all lined up in her room, or they're all standing in there telling stories about what happened during the day, learning from each other, and really grasping the law. It's fun to see it. I'm a teacher. I taught for the
What about Tim Shugrue? Is he still learning?
I learn every day. One of the things I do is that, you don't see it there, I just finished on my Lawyers Weekly. I read the law every Monday, and I go through and I have my appellate lawyers send it around to everybody else on the updates on it. MDA sends us updates on all case law. Every day we learn something new. And this year there were a lot of changes. We had Rodardo, which was a change on how do you handle people that have illegal firearms. We have to now prove the negative that someone doesn't have a license. So we're adapting how we're going to do that, and we're working on that right now. We're just about finished doing that. We've got a plan how to do that. We're also working on some new case law came down in McFarland, which has gone up for further appellate review. There's lots of things that we are doing that we're adapting to the law as it goes. So our training is constantly changing. This job is an immense amount of work if you want to do it. I want to do it, and so if it gets ignored, it just the problems exist. So I'm spending a lot of time. I can't try as many cases as I wanted to because I don't have the time. When I'm having to go to Boston 5 times a week to try to up our budget by a couple $100,000, but I'm doing.
Are
it.
you in Boston 5 times a week?
No, about five, once every.
Okay.
I've been there. I've probably been there once every 2 weeks, but that's a lot.
You show up.
I show up, and I go every month. We're at an MDA meeting.
You know, I think one thing we've established thus far. How are we doing there, David?
13 minutes.
Okay.
Doing good.
Yeah, we're doing good. I think one thing we've established so far in our discussion here is the enormous, I guess, tributaries that stem off of the job that we think of in the public
Right.
as district attorney. There's so many things you don't realize that are taking place. And before we began, I asked Timothy if he anticipated the, I guess, busyness or the workload, and he said no. Tell us about that.
Well, I knew it was
What
gonna be-
didn't you know when you got in
I didn't
that you
realize.
found out?
I guess I knew what kind of workload it was going to be because I know, I've
Yeah,
been
yeah.
here before. I've
You
been
had
a
an
prosecutor.
idea.
I have an idea. I didn't know just where we were situated within this office within Berkshire County, and I realized that we didn't have a lease. I realized all these monies were owed for cars. I realized there had to be a lot of changes that had to be done within there procedurally.
Could they have thrown you guys out
I mean,
if you didn't have a lease?
oh no, we're on right now. We're on extension, so and we're gonna have to extend it one more year because I have to expand. So which I have to put up to bid to the state. I'm doing the bid so now I'm doing a bid process to expand my office.
Would that be in this building?
I'm hoping so, yes, but you have to put it out to bid. It's wherever, if anybody matches it, they can match it, but I like this location. I don't want to go.
Perfect
It
location.
is a perfect location. It's an old bank, and so it's got the pomp and circumstance that I think is necessary for the office as well.
What about your practice, your defense practice? Is that no longer in
Oh yeah,
business?
we had to shut that down. I shut it down
Okay.
by November. I had to, because once I'm doing this, I can no longer do that. So that's all shut down.
Okay. You initially tried to hire your wife, who was your,
Yeah.
I guess, number two in your
Yeah,
private office.
she's tremendous. But we went through the proper procedures. We went through.
The
We
state
had to
said
say,
no, basically.
They said
Why
no,
did they
it's
say
okay.
no?
Well, it's nepotism because but I thought she had the exemption with having a master's degree in public administration, having worked for 20 years, and having a good relationship with everybody
Would that
within the legal
preclude
community.
her from doing some things for you, like
She-
unpaid or?
Oh, I mean, she can do stuff on if she wants to volunteer. We have volunteers who do volunteer work all the time.
Is she
cannot be
doing that right now?
Not really. We haven't had much. She has a new job, so she's a little busy in her own new job. So, we just have. It's kind of funny. We went together for work for 20 years, and so now we both.
What's she doing?
She works for. She is Richie Neal's legislative aide for Berkshire County.
Okay.
So she's on Columbus Avenue. So they scooped her right up after I couldn't hire her.
Yeah.
And she was very marketable, and she could have gone anywhere she wanted to. But she likes politics. She's got a master's, and she was a legislative aide for Sean Kelly.
Yep.
So she's been Democrat, Republican, and she was also one for Paul Karen in Springfield. So she's been a legislative aide in the past. So she enjoys her new job. She loves it. She loves working with constituents and with the people. So it worked out good for her. We both miss working each other every day. You've met Joanne, so you know.
Oh, I sure have. Yeah.
You know how we are. We were very close, and we worked well together.
It's amazing that a married couple can work together that long in the office.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't always work
Right,
out.
20 years, and we had no complaints whatsoever. We just did our own thing. But I consider us that we have a special relationship, and she's sort of my rock, and I hope I'm her rock, and we get along very well. But we're both community-based people, so it's nice. Now, if we're going out to events, she's going out, under the congressman's guise, and I'm going out as into my purview. And again, we were at the ribbon cutting yesterday for the YMCA. Julia would tell you that we're out. I'm out a lot. I've got
Is that
events.
true, Drew?
Yeah, I am
She's
out a
saying
lot.
yes. Yeah.
I am out a lot. I do a lot of still public speaking. I was in Adams a couple weeks ago just for coffee at 7:30 in the morning with the local leaders up there. So I got to be county. I got to go from Great Barrington, out of Sheffield to Clarksburg. So there's a lot of territory I got to cover. But it's important for people to still see me out and about. That I'm working within the community.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'm running 75-person business here, and on top of that, I'm trying to. I have to make decisions about all cases that come through here, which makes it harder to have my own caseload.
Why don't you just learn how to buy locate? Like Padre Pito. That
Yeah,
would help you.
I can tell you so far, I am not complaining about what's perfect. I like the job. I think we're doing a good job. I am getting, it's nice and rewarding when you go everywhere and people come up to me and thanking me for doing this. Because, quite frankly, I was making a lot more money. And I had a good business, and I worked with my wife. My life was perfect. And I've taken this on because of the commitment I have to Berkshire County, because I knew it just couldn't go on the way it was going. We were in a dangerous situation, so I had to get into the involved in this. I'm involved in it now, and I think I proved and shown already. I've done the trainings I said I was going to do. I am attacking guns and drugs like I said I'm going to do. We are attacking the trials we're doing, and we're pleading out the cases so that we can get these cases all, the post-COVID mess gone, and I think we're doing one bang-up job of that so far. So you just look at the amount of, if you see, I send you the press releases now, you see the amount of cases that we're doing every week that
We're
we're
back
resolving.
on the list. Amazing.
If I didn't know you weren't, and then once I found out you weren't, I was happy to put you on the list.
Yeah, you know, we mentioned Rachel Rollins in passing, and she came in 2021 with great fanfare, and Senator Warren and certainly President Biden said, we've got a good one here. Turns out that wasn't the case. Were you a supporter of Rachel Rollins in the beginning?
No, I'm not a pretty.
I didn't think you were.
No, I mean
we might have talked about that. I think over coffee.
Right. I didn't. Yes, I'm not a believer in not prosecuting the crimes that are on the books that are important for us. I've always believed in, especially in our community, prosecuting the small crimes is important. I think when you move that line further down and you leave that all open, it just brings chaos. And I think it's important that you prosecute the cases as you're supposed to prosecute.
Were you shocked at her sudden demise?
I was shocked because I go to the MDA meetings every month, and that means all 11 of SDAs are there. And I got to know Kevin Hayden, who is the district attorney that won the race, that had the contested race that Rachel Rollins was trying to unseat.
It turns out that Rachel Rollins, as the report, there were two reports actually, indicated that she really used her office to try to sway Kevin Hayden's race against Arroyo, who is on the city council in Boston.
Right.
He was running for.
I saw that in the Globe after it came on down.
How can you not shake your head?
Well, I felt bad for Kevin. I don't think he was aware that they were doing these things.
No.
I don't think he had any clue until after this all came out. I don't think anybody really knew the severity and the.
Well, the Boston Globe knew.
Yeah, they
To their shame.
Yeah, and now it's out, but it would have been awful if this man had lost that race based upon things that weren't true. So that's the
It
underside
turned
of
out that
politics.
even with that unfair advantage, Kevin Hayden still won.
He did. He
You
did.
know?
It was funny. A lot of those, don't forget here locally, I had, a lot of people supported Andrea that were in the political realm of things and did not support me. Not that they didn't support me, but they were supporting her. That happened with Tim Cruz in Plymouth County too. With all the same individuals all supported his opponent. All of us won. So you know why we won? Because we were with the people. We were meeting with the people. I think I became the voice of the people last summer. You saw me everywhere.
Yeah, sure did. You know, it's astounding though that someone like Rachel Rollins or of that political persuasion could be so out of touch with just what we call Mary Jane and Joe Kapansky on our blog, www.planetvalenti.com. But the Kapanskys are basically that average, just the average person gets up, goes to work, keeps their house tidy, mows the lawn, pays taxes, tries to keep their nose clean. And they had the feeling that they were left out of things.
Right.
And it sounds like that's also part of this culture change.
It is, and that description basically describes Berkshire County.
It does.
It really does. We're a working person's community.
Blue collar roots.
Blue collar roots.
I don't think we'll ever lose those stripes.
Right. I mean, I started out blue collar. I was a telephone man. I climbed telephone poles before I became a lawyer. So
Whoa.
I was a union.
You were the
card holder.
Wichita lineman.
Something like that. I was an operator too. So.
Were you? So was my wife.
Yeah, I was a cordboard operator in the '70s and
With the plugs and everything?
Yeah, Federal Street in Pittsfield. Yeah. When I was in high school, and then I
It's
went.
a Renaissance man, I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just call me Lily Tomlin, But yeah, then I went to climbing school and through undergraduate and law school. That's how I paid for it. I was a repairman for the New England Telephone Company. So for years.
Wow.
So I was a card-carrying AVW worker. So that's why going back to this, I think a lot of Berkshire County is that we're very homespun.
Well,
community.
Good
Yeah,
word.
and I think that
Down to earth.
down to earth, and that's the people that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And whether you're on Linden Street or you're on Elm Street, I find all the families are the same. We have a great influx of the Latino community, which are tremendous workers, tremendous individuals. We have a lot of Latino people working within the office. We have a lot of new restaurants that are coming up here. We want to embrace our community, and I think you're seeing. I think we can see a lot of great things happen with Pittsfield if I can just get this.
That's an interesting
drugs
tie-in.
under
We
control.
mentioned the tributaries. If this office can either lead the way or be a big part of changing that culture,
Right.
the criminal culture that seems to have taken hold during your predecessor's term,
Right.
it's also going to help downtown Pittsfield, which is
Helps the entire county because
the county seat.
Right.
Is right
This
here.
is the county seat. This is
Right,
right.
probably literally ground zero would be this building.
Right.
If you right near Park Square,
Right.
right here,
Right.
and I think
We do
that has to bode well for the downtown.
Absolutely. I'm telling businesses that work with me, put some cameras in, work with us. We're going to prosecute.
And we're just about going to conclude this hour or so with Timothy Shugrue, who is the Berkshire County District Attorney. And if he had a little camera glitch there, we just had to battery up, as it were. But we're back now, Tim, and we'll wrap it up by asking you to look forward. And you're really in the first, not even the first lap of a 4-year term.
Right.
What do you want to see happen over the next month, rest of the year, 2 years, your entire term? If you could address that for us.
Yeah, what we're doing right now is I still want to keep the track that we're doing, getting these Superior Court cases tried and done. In the meantime, we're going to be training all our district court lawyers because they're very green. We're working on that on a daily basis, and we are getting the backlog. We are impaling a murder trial right now as you and I are speaking. That's happening over in the Superior Court with my first assistant. We're going to continue to go forward, and I'm going to finish up. I hope to hear good news by the end of the week about our budget for next year. I'm hoping we're going to get the increase that I've been requesting and the rent increase that I've been requesting.
What percentage increase would allow you to do what you need to do?
It's a little over 5%, and with a annualization of our, they gave us what we call retention funds last year, gave me some funds so I could retain good lawyers. And so I want that going forward, and plus I asked for another $74,000 for our rent increase that we have coming up this year, because even our payroll tax increase is approximately 2%. So with a 5% increase, it doesn't give me a lot.
So it gives you 3%.
It really gives me 3%, but it's about our grand scheme of things is to raise our budget by $200,000, which is small because our budget's only right now is 5.6. We want to go to 5.8 million. I think it was, so if we can get to that point.
Will that 3% allow you to expand your?
No, what I'm going to do is once I put this out to bid, when I know what the cost is going to be, I will be applying for a supplemental budget solely for the purposes of a physical plant, which is usually we're able to get that on a supplemental budget because it's to expand our physical plant. We haven't grown in 14 years, so we like to grow and build up. We have 3 lawyers to an office. We're overloaded, so we want to try to get us so that we're comfortable. Same as everywhere else in the state. We want to be on the same level. So we're working on that. In the meantime, I've got more people traveling. I have people traveling this week that are now, I believe, in Dallas. That are at conference. I got 4 people conference in Dallas this week. We'll be sending more people away. I am going to DC in a couple weeks for the National Children's Alliance, which is all the National Children's Advocacy Centers, and I'm trying to get our local one back on the
And
national
where is
scene.
that held?
That's in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
So I'm going down there in a couple of weeks for a few days just to kind of try to build our facility back up. I haven't taken a day off yet. I hope to take some time off in July. But going forward, I'm going to keep building. I want to finish the rest of the office as far as staff goes. I'm working on the lease getting done, and I want to continue to train and grow. And now I'm going to go into step 2, which is going to be more in-depth programming. We just wrote a significant grant for about $100,000, which will bring some street patrols to downtown Pittsfield.
Oh.
On beat patrols, on feet. I'm hoping for 9 weekends of visibility patrols, 4 different beat patrols that we're getting a grant for. some other monies regarding diversion programs with other, partnering with other local agencies to build up how do we prevent mental health issues and also drug diversion issues. So we're working a lot of that. Julia writes a lot of our grants. I'm pretty sure we're going to get this $100,000 grant, which will give me. They only give us money for our budget and our physical plan. That's all we get. For me to do anything above and beyond that, I got to write grants. So that's above and beyond what my administration is supposed to do. But we're doing that. We're going to be getting more grants to get publicly oriented to get our community going. That's why I hired a community outreach director, Julia, and I've hired her assistant now, because they're putting that much time and effort into it. So there's a lot coming forward. We'll be at Juneteenth. We'll be at the Legends on this Saturday from 12 to 5. We're a third Thursday. We have a booth there every third Thursday. So I'm up in North Adams for most of the events, and in Adams and in Great Barrington. So we're all over the place. It makes me tired even saying it.
Well, culture change is like turning left on the Queen Mary. You have to start early and keep at it. It'll take you the entire 4 years at least, but there's no question in your first 5 months you have made a difference and an impact. And you know me, I wouldn't say that if it were not true, and it is true. And Tim Shugrue, keep up the good work. We look forward to touching base again in the future.
And we'll definitely do the same time. Like I said, if you want to just call me, and I'll get you in. I'm sorry we had to cancel you. Last time my dad passed, and
Understand.
I know you probably put it out there that we were going to be doing the interview, but that was because my dad passed away.
And we will be putting the word out there on this broadcast, so you'll stay tuned to that. On behalf of Berkshire County District Attorney Timothy Shugrue, I'm Dan Valenti. We thank David for his services today, and we'll hook up the next time, everybody. So long, everybody.